Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant podcast. These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome to the Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant podcast, where we explore the extraordinary world of organ transplantation. I'm your host, BJ Odom. Each week we share inspiring stories and introduce you to remarkable individuals sharing their own transplant stories. Be sure to support the podcast by leaving that 5-star review and subscribing and following us on your preferred podcast platform. Have a transplant story yourself or comments about the podcast? Please send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. It's giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Hey, I'm the guy with more parts than a chicken nugget. My new memoir, packed with laughs, heart, and the unbelievable true story of survival that you've heard me talk about right here on the show. More parts than a chicken nugget. Get yours today on Amazon. As we welcome you to episode 84, where you're about to hear one of the most incredible and emotional stories we've ever shared. Imagine walking into the emergency room one week and getting a new heart the next. That's exactly what happened to Chris Goff. In that short of time, Chris was shocked without sedation, placed on an ECMO machine just to stay alive, and somehow found the strength to keep believing that a miracle was coming. His story is raw, powerful, and a true reminder of how fragile and how beautiful life can be. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and join us for this unforgettable conversation. Want to welcome Chris to the show today. And of course, Chris is another heart recipient. But first of all, Chris, why don't you start out by telling the audience just a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, when this all started, I was 51. I'm 53 now. Live in a small town in Connecticut, about a half hour outside of Hartford. Born and raised here, family, parents, grandparents. I have 3 kids who all adults now. My oldest is married, lives the other side of the country out in Washington. And just 2 weeks ago, had their first baby. So I'm a first-time grandfather now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, little girl. So I'm living on pictures until I can go see her. Yeah. So then my middle son, him and his girlfriend live in Kentucky. They are both going to school. He's in the Navy Reserves, and he is going to be a pilot. So he's going for a bachelor's degree down there, and they're doing well. And then my youngest, my daughter, living nearby here with her boyfriend, and she's in her master's program.
Wow, you got some smart kids there, it sounds like.
Well, I lucked out.
And you had 3. Usually when you have 3, that third one you got to worry about a little bit, but you did good, Chris.
Well, yeah, especially because she was the girl, and she was more work than the 2 boys combined.
Well, this, of course, is a...
But it's all good.
We're going to get into your transplant story here. So as I ask everyone to kind of begin, where did it begin and how did it begin?
Very bizarre. I guess I can go back to March of last year, 2024. Started having symptoms, but I was able to disregard or call them off. Started would have pain in the upper back right shoulder area. So thought it was like muscle pain going to the gym. No big deal, Then we get tired constantly. One night went out to eat, and later on violently sick. I was thinking, food poison, justifying all these symptoms. And then it was finally April 8th, the day of the solar eclipse last year. It was a Monday morning. I woke up, showered, was going to go to work, and just wasn't feeling right. Dizzy, lightheaded. So I decided, I should go over. We have a little emergency clinic 5 minutes from my house. So I'm like, I should go there. They'll probably give me fluids and send me home, dehydrated. So luckily, instead of driving myself, I called my mother. Parents live nearby. And she drove me over. And I got into that first little exam room, take your blood pressure. And next thing I know, I was instantly brought into one of the rooms, hooked up to every machine possible, 2 doctors, nurses, techs. That room was packed. Apparently, I walked in on VTech. I was in. It was, and I was still talking and moving myself, walking around, and they just couldn't believe it. So that's when it started, day of the eclipse.
Okay. And now, what was the process after that? Did they realize at that time that you needed the transplant, or was there some times in between and, kind of figuring out exactly what was going on?
It all went quick, there at the clinic. Again, I was still awake, still talking, not intubated or anything. And the doctor very calmly said, we need to shock you and we don't have time to put you out. So before I knew it, I heard clear and they shocked me. And
now, wait a minute. Time out.
I was awake. Yes.
I've got to ask, because I was in the emergency room very recently. And as soon as I got in, they put the paddles on me. They got the little stick-up things on it. And they said, we just want to have these on for precaution. And I'm going, oh, my goodness, what's going on? They've never done this before when I've come in and had this situation. I've got to ask, because luckily I did not get it. Now, I know I've heard from many of people who, have had the defibrillators in, like the pacemaker defibrillators. What was it like?
Had to be the worst pain of my life. But I was in such a state, I think I was still calm. I was talking. And when he said, we have to shock you, I remember saying, okay. And then that was it. And I got shocked. And that pain was unbelievable. Didn't last long, luckily. It was a quick jolt. And that's when they said, you need to go. You need to get to the hospital. So he gave me an offer. He's like, there's Hartford and there's Yale. Where do you want to go? So I know Hartford well. I said, go to Hartford. So they were going to call for the Lifestar helicopter, but there happened to be an ambulance there. So they put me into the ambulance and drove me up. And I remember one of the weird things, getting wheeled from the ambulance through the bay into the ER. All I remember was the smell of the diesel from the ambulances. Weird thing to remember, but it sticks out. So I get into the ER room, cardiologists, doctors, there was a whole group of people in there, and they're doing the echo. And they had to shock me again there. But they had the IV in, knocked me out real quick, got shocked, came back. And I'm talking to them, and they're doing all their exams, and I have some of my families there at that point. And I remember laying there saying, I'm okay. Why don't you guys go out and look at the eclipse? I'm fine. And the cardiologist laughingly, I remember him, Peter, he goes, thank you, but we're a little busy right now. So that kind of set the tone and the mood. It's weird that I felt so calm during this whole thing.
Well, that's good that's good that you were calm. But now, by doing the dates, this must have been a quick process for you then.
Yes, it was. So from there, that was Monday. So I get into the ICU and all that. They're doing everything. And then it came Tuesday. They needed to put that balloon pump in the leg. So I had that done. Wednesday, I guess. And again, I'm still awake, alert, talking, the whole thing. And Wednesday, they decided they had to hook me up to ECMO.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So
now for
Wednesday,
anyone, now I'm sorry to interrupt, but for anyone out there that may not know, Why don't you explain that?
ECMO is this big, it's like an air-conditioned size unit that they take a hose from your groin area, take the blood out, goes into the machine, circulates and adds oxygen, and then pumps it through a hose back into, it was in the upper right side of my chest. So it was like a big filter.
Yeah.
Pumping my blood for me.
So how many?
So
yeah, how long? Well, you continue along because this is like I'm on the edge of my seat now because I know everything is moving quickly. And I'm
very quick.
I'm trying to get ahead of myself, I think. So you continue.
Yeah. So ECMO was just 2 days after this all started. And then bizarre little side story. I remember it was Thursday morning, early. I think it was about 6 a.m. I woke up I felt a hand on my shoulder. And I open my eyes, I look, and I see what looked like a cousin of mine, older guy that passed away a few years ago. And all I remember thinking was, I died, and he's here.
Oh, wow.
And then he starts talking, and it's my cousin's son, and I see his wife move from behind him. He's a doctor up in Maine, and he and his wife had come down to see me, and he got into my room because of who he was, and wanted to, check out this ECMO. And I remember him saying, "That's $1 million machine right there,"
So we can call you the $1 million man now.
Oh yeah, don't even get it. My bills are a lot more than that. So that was all, so then we're at Thursday morning. Right after that, Thursday morning, the cardiologist comes in and sits down next to me, and very calmly we're talking. He goes, all those symptoms I was having prior, those were all heart attacks.
Oh, wow.
And never had any breathing problems or chest pains, the typical symptoms you hear of. And they had done so much damage to my heart. He said, we can't operate. It won't work.
So then you heard the word.
Calmly. No. So then I said to him, I said, so what the blank do I do now? And he looked at me and said, your only option is transplant. Okay. So then I had to make that decision. It's basically, do you live or die? So agree to that. Yep, I want to have a transplant. The surgeon comes in, goes through everything, does all the paperwork. The part that I never realized, and I don't think many people do, if you've never been exposed to this type of situation, is that as a recipient, I need to qualify to accept a donor.
Yeah. And that can be a process.
Oh, yeah. So starting the next day, the infectious disease guy, great guy, comes in. How you doing? I'm like, I'm good. How are you? It's like, well, you won't be when I'm done with you. If you have anything, I'll find it. So they did everything, head to toe exam, inside out, eyes, teeth, ears, right down to the toes. They check everything to see if you are healthy enough to be a recipient. So that was a process in itself.
The only test that I was worried about when they wanted to give me the psyche, I said, I might fail this one.
Yeah. No, you never know what you're going to say in that situation. Yep. Yeah. No. So it was Friday afternoon. They were all done. Yep. You're good. It was, again, a weird coincidence. It was April 12th. It was a Friday. And I signed the paper with the surgeon, and there was a digital clock behind him on the wall. And I looked, and it was 4:12 in the afternoon on April 12th. So that's another date that sticks in my mind. So that was Friday afternoon. Stayed on ECMO And Sunday morning, so we're at a day and a half later now, the cardiologist comes in at 5:30 in the morning and wakes me up and says, "We can't confirm it yet, but we think we have a heart for you."
Wow.
Okay. And the other thing was, in this whole process of getting tested to be a recipient, one of the things they explained was that I could reject the donor if I wanted. That if it comes in with any risk factors, that I could pass and wait for the next one. So this one, that Sunday morning, had no risk factors at all. So, of course, yep, I accept it. And that night I was in surgery.
So I've been listening to the story, but from the day you went into the ER to the day you got, because this is an amazing story, because this, to me, this went quick. From walking into the ER to getting a transplant, how many days or months, through that process?
I walked in. Yeah, I walked in on Monday morning and woke up from surgery the next Monday morning, 1 week.
Oh, wow. You might, I hate to say this, but I can tell you now, because you don't have to worry about it. But if you got your transplant that fast, you were a very sick individual, because that's what kind of gets you to the top of the list. But
that's what I'm hearing. I think that ECMO machine.
That
takes to the top.
That gets you like way up there really fast. But man, I mean, because they couldn't do a pacemaker, they couldn't do that labs. None of that would have worked in me, So I was stuck in the hospital, being kept alive by ECMO. Now, I know this is going to be a dumb question, especially for someone who has never had to experience a heart transplant. Now, do you feel because the time was such a short window? Of course, you got shocked 2 times too. One time you were asleep, thank God. But that was
twice. That's right.
That was such a short window. Now, are you? Well, nobody's happy about getting a heart transplant. I know that. But do you think it was easier for you than other people because it was such a quick process, or was it more stressful?
I do. No, I think, if it had to happen, I'm glad it happened this way so quickly. It was really not time to process anything. It was like every day there was something going on. And then by the time you think about it, it's done.
Okay. Now, like myself, I was born with a heart defect. I had surgeries, through my lifetime that, it was not a short process. Now, when they finally decided to put me on the transplant list, it was probably 3 or 4 months. So that was good. But how did it feel like? Because I know this got to play with you a little bit, because you're a perfectly healthy man going about his everyday, routine. And then a week later, you've got a heart transplant. Now, did that? Now, how did that affect you? Because I think with me being a child from birth and taking it all the way till I was, 49, 40, I forget, it was in my upper 40s, around 50, it was like, okay, but man.
You're used to dealing with it.
Yeah. But going now, how are you?
It was, I think best way to describe it was like whiplash. Like one of my family said, that it all happened so fast and now it's over. Okay, now we're going to deal with it. There was no time to process. It's just one thing after another.
Now the question,
and again, I'm glad it was that quick, personally.
Yeah, you know what? I've been doing this podcast for well over a year, probably a year and a half, maybe somewhere, maybe even a little more than that. But and I've talked to a lot of heart transplant people, and this is, yes, I've heard amazing stories for sure, but this one is the one that's got me in my seat going, whoa.
So the rehab, I guess, went pretty well. One of the worst things was having those biopsies. Have you ever had those?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
They're not fun.
They're talking about, that 14 or so biopsies in the first year. And, you can't drive for so many months. You can't go out to eat for 6 months. Can't travel because of the immune system. So they did the first biopsy in the hospital before I left, and it came back great. So I got discharged that Monday, came home. So it was just 2 weeks from start to finish total.
Now you did say you lived in a smaller town. Now, how far were you from the hospital? Because I remember I was like a little over 2 hours away from Tampa General Hospital where I had mine, and I had to pretty much stay in town for about almost a month before they let the wife and I, go back to our house and everything again. So no, I'm about a half hour away from Hartford Hospital, so convenient. And the whole thing, they wanted someone living with me full time for the first 2 or 3 weeks to make sure I don't fall or no reaction, anything happen. Right.
So 2 of my kids were still around, so they kind of took turns and stayed with me, and my mother would come over and friends would come over. So there was always someone at my house.
Kids are great. And I know my children too would take excellent care of me, but it's kind of like, okay, now my kid's taking care of me.
I know. Yeah. It's not what I expected. But all of them, were great. When this all happened, it was just a week after my oldest son had moved out to Washington.
Oh, wow.
So when I went in the hospital, he had to fly back home. So it was a lot on all of them.
I'll tell you though, it's still amazing how fast you got that. And I'm still stunned. And I don't know, I've just never been this surprised doing a podcast. I'm going, wow, I can't even imagine the turnaround time like that. But congratulations to you, my friend. Now, how are you doing these days?
So it's been now a year and a half, and it's all I can say is great, unbelievable. I don't think I've had, and I told this to the doctor last time I went, I don't think I've had that aha moment, like this happened, this is reality. Again, because I think it all happened so quick, and I was back to somewhat of a routine.
Awesome. Yeah.
Just to go back to those biopsies, after the third one, they did a second, and then it was supposed to be weekly. And then they said, let's wait a few weeks for the third one. So it was a few weeks later, had that, and it was still great. So they're like, you know what? We don't need to do any more biopsies. So in lieu of that, I do the echocardiograms with the heart care blood work. Now that's at every 3 months.
Okay.
And they check it.
Now,
so, you look back at the medication list. When I came home, I think there were 16 different medications I was on.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, because I remember, as you get ready to leave the hospital, your coordinator comes in and they bring this, it looks like a briefcase, and she brought out this giant pill case, morning, middays, afternoon, nighttime. And you're going.
You had to go through and fill it with them. To make sure you got it right. Oh yeah, I had my book. Yep.
Now,
it was crazy, the amount of pills.
My coordinator today, I love her to death. And I've had her, I'm like 22 going on 23 years out, and I've had her from day one. But I remember the first time she came into my room to tell me, you gotta, it was Nurse Cratchit. Let me tell you, I will tell you right now. I don't know. She was like a drill sergeant. She was saying, these are important. You tell, and oh my goodness, I have to, but like I said, today, I love her to death, but I remember if they say first impressions count. Whoa, that was a first impression.
Yep, definitely. Yep. And I think that's how they all were. I think back, everyone there at the hospital, they were great. The nurses, even the people taking the blood every morning, wake me at 6 o'clock to take blood. And I could not stand needles. You know, in the past, years ago, I passed out from getting a needle.
Well, when I got
Now
married,
it's like nothing.
when I got married, I passed out just from getting the blood test you need to get when you're married. And now it's like, you're going to feel a poke. Did you do it? Oh, you did it. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's all done. Yeah. Yep.
Well, man.
So things have been going well. I got right out. I live on a dead end, flat road. So actually, probably a few days after I got home, I was out. I'd walk to my driveway, then start walking up the road a little, getting out constantly, moving. And then starting the rehab program, did all that. I remember telling them at first, I want to jog on the treadmill. I don't want to walk. So that all had to get cleared. And then they had a little section for weights. And I said, I want to do the weights. So that had to get approved and supervised and all that. So I think, I moved through that pretty quickly. And medications is crazy now. I had my 1-year checkup, 6 months ago with the transplant team. And she was laughing. She's like, you should write a book. And, first of all, how it happened all so quick, how I'm not having rejection issues. And I'm basically on one medication now for my heart.
Oh, which one's that? I mean, are you on one or two anti-rejection drugs?
One. So I take a baby aspirin. Then they have me on Lipitor. I've never had cholesterol issues. I don't, but for preventative, they want me to take Lipitor. And then I'm on Envarsus, one rejection pill.
Wow, man.
And she said it's not very common that someone a year out is on one pill.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, and they told my wife this, and we both looked at each other like going, no, not so much. But she experienced breast cancer, but they caught it very early. So she had the surgery, but didn't need any chemo, didn't need any radiation. And the doctors kept saying, man, you are just so lucky. And we're both sitting here going, lucky my hiney, that's not luck. But
in the scheme of things,
And now I'm going to say the same words to you that when the doctor said it to us, I'm saying, you are crazy. But let me tell you, you are a real lucky man. And it was just that it was in and out and that quick. It's amazing.
Yeah. And they actually, a few months ago, reduced the dose of that because my levels have been good.
Oh, man.
So
you're a rock star.
So things are good. Yeah. I kept going at, 1 month. I took my first trip out by myself to an event. And then, they told you, I think, what was it? A year or 6 months it was a year without traveling. But at 9 months, they said, go ahead. You want to go. Just wear a mask on the plane.
Now, I'm going to ask you this now. Your first, because, people that are listening to the podcast don't understand the immune system is very, very low, especially right after transplant. And they really stress with you. If you hear a cough, if you do this, if you do that, get out of the room or whatever. So your first time out of the house, were you nervous? Because I know there for probably, the first few times I went out is like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get close to anybody. I don't want to catch anything. Was it like that for you?
I was a little paranoid. Yep. Yeah. Especially this event. So quick backstory. I was chairman of our local Board of Education for about 8 years. And I got off the board. It was about a year and a half, 2 years prior to this happening, and kept in contact with the superintendent and teachers. A lot of the teachers there I had when I was in school, that type of small town situation. And he was retiring. And originally I was going to go and speak at his retirement. But then all this happened, and I was in contact with the current chairwoman. And, I said to her, I'd love to be able to just, without him knowing, show up, say a few words about him, and then leave. Because it was a big event, dinner, a whole night thing. And I couldn't stay and eat and be around all those people. And she set it up. She's like, if you can come do it, do it. So my first time driving, first time out, I went to this local venue 5 minutes away from my house and waited in the side. And she started the program, it said a few words, and then introduced me. And no one knew I was going to be there. So I walked in, still using a cane at that time because my legs were still a little weak. And there was about 150 people and had a standing ovation as I walked in. It was kind of nerve-wracking on that part.
Now, see, I would hate that.
But it was great. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, go in, got up to the podium, took my mask off, said what I needed to say, and then I was able to leave.
Awesome.
So that was my first experience out.
Well, we're getting close to the end here. And is there anything that I maybe missed talking about, or anything you would like to say in what we call the final words here of the podcast?
The final words, I guess, is learn to, speak up for yourself. All the doctors and everyone are great, but if they don't know what you're thinking or feeling, then they can't do anything. I talk about the medication, how every time I went for a checkup, I would question, do I need this anymore? Can I stop that? And kept pushing. And I think that's how I got reduced so quick, because things were well and I spoke up. And then this past July, our town has a event for a weekend, Old Homes Day. And part of it is a 5K run. And I decided I wanted to do the 5K. So I reached out to the team and said, this is what I want to do. I feel like physically I can do it, but I want your okay. And they called back the next day. We all talked about it. Go ahead. So a few months ago, I did a 5K.
Awesome. You'll find this.
So
you'll find that this community is really kind of a family for sure, and especially as I've been doing this podcast. I mean, even people I talked to over a year ago, I still stay in contact with, and it's a wonderful world. And if you can, we get out there as much as we can, and promote organ donations and to sign up and everything else.
Yeah.
And I just want to wish.
I recently joined. There's a Facebook chat group for heart transplant people, and I joined that. And to be honest, I kind of feel guilty reading some of the stories about what people are going through, because I haven't experienced that. I haven't waited like you for months for a heart, or, lived on the pacemaker or the Vlad for, years waiting. It just all happened so quick, and I'm doing so well.
Every once in a while,
I haven't been able to write anything in that group yet, because I don't want to feel like I'm bragging about how I'm doing.
But you know what? I will tell you this, and this is just for me. I mean, everyone's probably different. But because I joined a support group too, and it seemed like the meetings, it was kind of like gloom and doom, well, I've got this going on. And I was doing so well at the time too. And it's like, man, live, I don't know if I can go to these meetings any longer. But you know what? When you do go though, and they do see that you're doing well, I think that gives them a boost. And so every once in a while, if you'd say, hey, I'm like a year and a half out, and I've so far, knock on wood, but I'm having an excellent experience. I mean, I'm doing excellent, and no rejection, or however you'd want to write it. I mean, I don't want to tell you what to put on it, but I mean, I think other recipients, even when they're going through problems and they hear someone doing well, that helps them more than the gloom and doom stories. I think the positive stories, like I try to say, and almost every time I talk to a heart recipient, 22 years out, almost 23.
Yeah.
I'm going for the record.
That's crazy.
After I get there, you can get it after me, but I'm going to get the record for, living the longest with a heart transplant.
Yep. Nice.
So yeah, they like to hear some of that positive news too. So remember, think of it that way also.
Yeah, I'll get there.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, have you written to the donor family yet?
I did at about 6 months. I reached out, filled out the card, and confirmed that it was, I guess, delivered, or they got notified that the card was there, and have not heard back yet.
Well, I've heard people say, I've heard people say sometimes it takes years, and then they'll finally reach out.
Yeah, and I get it. I'd love to be able to talk with them, meet them, but I get it if not. Different situations for everyone.
Yeah, and everybody has their own, their own way they want to deal with things. So definitely understand.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you for coming on today and sharing your story. And I'm really glad you did, because like I said, I've been doing this over a year and a half. I've talked to a lot of heart recipients, and you do, even though it's not a long drawn out story where, this and that, it was like a week-long story, but that's what makes,
that was it.
That's what makes your story so freaking amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing your amazing story. And be sure to join us each week for a new heartfelt episode. And if you have a transplant story, let us hear from you. Email us at giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook. Also, don't forget to like and share this episode with family and friends. And would appreciate that 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. A reminder, my memoir, More Parts Than a Chicken Nugget, it just isn't a medical story. It's a survival story with humor, hope, and heart. It'll make you laugh, maybe cry, and definitely believe in second chances. Get it today on Amazon, More Parts Than a Chicken Nugget. Another podcast you might enjoy is myself and my former radio partner, Bill Stevens. BJ and Bill the Podcast, all on the Podcast Playground Network. We want to thank them for making this podcast possible. Until next time, I'm BJ Odom. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey and reminding us all to appreciate each and every day and to treasure the extraordinary gift of life.
He was running on empty, heart fading fast. Doctor said, man, you ain't gonna last. But a stranger's kindness, a gift so true, turned the night sky into something new. He got a second chance, he got a brand new spark. Like a freight train rolling back from the dark. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. 15 years later, the road got rough. The fight ain't over when the climb is tough. Needed a kidney, the race was on. Another hero stepped up, kept him strong. Every breath he takes is a tale of hope. One life saved, another can cope. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. Doctor's hands, a donor's grace, running on down to a brand new place. Second chances don't come twice, but when they do, man, they feel so nice. So let's spread the word, let the people know. One yesterday lets a miracle grow. You don't need wings just to save a man, just a little love, a helping hand. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. BJ still rocking, still standing tall. Thanks to the ones who gave it all. Gift of life, hear the sound. Pass it on, pass it down. The Gift of Life podcast, hosted by BJ Odom. Listen now. Listen now.